viewers from BBC One joining us in just a moment or so on this breaking news story.
Just to confirm what we know this morning, we've had a statement from Clarence House in the last half hour or so. Just to confirm from Clarence House that Prince William and Kate Middleton are to be married next year in either the spring or summer of 2011. The statement reads as follows. The Prince of Wales is delighted to announce the engagement of Prince William to Miss Catherine Middleton. The wedding will take place in the spring or summer of 2011 in London. Further details about the wedding day will be announced in due course. We will have so much more coverage coming your way on the royal wedding very shortly. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to viewers joining us on BBC One. This is a BBC News special programme. Prince William is to marry his fiancée Kate Middleton next year. Well, a very good morning and welcome to this news special. News that the royal engagement was announced in a brief statement a little earlier released by Clarence House. That statement says the Prince of Wales is delighted to announce the engagement of Prince William to Miss Catherine Middleton.
The wedding will take place in the spring or summer of 2011 in London, and further details about the wedding day will be announced in due course.
Well, let's go straight to our royal correspondent Peter Hunt, who's in central London for us. And Peter, you have watched this couple for a very long time. Your thoughts on this news?
Well, I think there's been inevitable months and months of speculation about when this moment would happen. But throughout all that speculation, of course, the speculation sold newspapers because there are many people in this country who are fascinated by weddings and royal weddings in particular. But throughout the speculation, there has only been one person who's known when it would happen, and that was Prince William. And of course, what he did was, as we now know, is that in October, on a private holiday in Kenya with Kate Middleton, who we are now going to have to get used to calling Catherine. It's very striking, isn't it, that in the statement they talk about Catherine Middleton. Princess Catherine, I think, has a better ring maybe than Princess Kate. He proposed to Kate Middleton, his girlfriend of 8 years. He, unlike the rest of us when we become engaged, not only did he have to talk to Kate's father and get her permission, he also had to get the permission of the Queen under an ancient law that was passed many centuries ago to stop a distant royal marrying someone dodgy. He got that permission from the Queen. He told other members of the royal family, one has to assume that includes his father, the Prince of Wales. But once that secret engagement had occurred in October, trying to keep it secret clearly has proved increasingly untenable, and that's why we now have the announcement today that the engagement has occurred and that the marriage will take place in London in the spring or summer of 2011. A significant year on many levels. It would have been Diana's 50th birthday in July 2011, and of course 2011 is the 30th anniversary of her ill-fated wedding marriage to his father, the Prince of Wales, back in 1981.
And Peter, as you were just saying, intriguing that they leave the options open either spring or the summer of next year.
Well, I think that in part, I suppose, the fact that we're not clear shows that maybe they have been bounced into making this announcement, possibly, and again I'm speculating, maybe some newspaper had sniff of it, and William, of all the characters within the royal family, is someone who is determined to be in control. He has a complex relationship, as did his mother, with the media, and so I think the slightest hint maybe that it was going to get out, they chose to get it out. But the fact that we don't have a different time is rather reminiscent of the time when I was standing in a similar spot back in 2005 when Clarence House were bounced into announcing the engagement of the then Camilla Parker Bowles and the Prince of Wales. So the fact that they don't have all their ducks in a row suggests that maybe this announcement has come out earlier than intended. They will now find that date, and of course the factors that have to be included is we're talking about the marriage of a future king. So it can't take place in some back alley somewhere. You have to bring in lots of people, other European royals, one has to assume, and other world leaders, and you have to fit in with the diary of the Queen, the diary of other senior members of the royal family, and the Prince William's diary as a search and rescue pilot. And so those are the factors that are going on as we speak. And of course they've also got to find a location, but they won't struggle in the way that any of our relatives do finding a location. It's a London location. St Paul's Cathedral, I think he would want to avoid because that's where his mother married the Prince of Wales. The Guards Chapel, where he held a service for the 10th anniversary of his mother's death, I suspect, while William might like it, I think may be too small, and so that leaves open the likelihood that it could well be at Westminster Abbey, where, of course, the Queen married back in 1947.
Peter Hunt, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Well, let's get more reaction now. Let's join our chief political correspondent, Laura Koonsberg, who is at Westminster for us this morning. Laura, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
What political reaction has there been so far to this announcement?
Well, I'm here in Westminster on College Green, just, of course, a couple of hundred yards from Westminster Abbey itself, where, as Peter was saying there, the wedding might take place. There has already been, quick out of the traps, warm congratulations coming from the Prime Minister, David Cameron, to the couple, and also from the leader of the Labour Party, Ed Miliband. And the Cabinet, the whole Cabinet, heard of this news halfway through their meeting this morning. The Prime Minister received notification during what's normally a pretty serious affair in Downing Street, and he then passed the news on to the rest of his colleagues. So quick out of the traps, very warm wishes coming from the leader of the Labour and the Conservative parties to the happy couple. And of course, this is something that will be a huge event here in Westminster. Of course, if the wedding actually takes place here, but it will be an event that attracts huge public attention, and the announcement itself is already doing so. Some Labour sources, I have to say, are raising a slight eyebrow at the timing of this announcement, given that there are a couple of other important things happening here in Westminster today. Payments towards people who allege that somehow they were victims of torture that the British security services knew about, and also Downing Street putting out the news that their official photographer, who was on the government payroll, is actually going back to work to the Tory party.
Laura, we were talking to Peter Hunt a few minutes ago and speculating about the date of the wedding, whether it'll be spring or summer next year. How much contact will there be between Clarence House, Buckingham Palace and Downing Street in terms of fixing a date?
Well, I think given the size of the event, and given that quite possibly many thousands of people, possibly hundreds of thousands of people might travel to London for the occasion, that Downing Street would be kept very much in the loop of deciding the date of the wedding. I'm not certain that they would have any influence in terms of actually setting the precise date, but I'm sure they will be involved in conversations about how to timetable such an enormous event. It's worth saying that at the beginning of May, if there were to be a royal wedding in that particular month, there will be elections, local elections around the country, elections in Scotland and in Wales, and also a public vote on a complete shake-up of the way that we send our MPs to Parliament. So if it were to be in May, that is a very important political month for the government too. Now, whether that means they'll steer away from May and be slightly earlier or slightly later is a question that has not yet been resolved. But certainly that is going to be a significant political month for the government as they pass their first year anniversary in power.
And Laura, bound to be huge security implications of an operation around the wedding, which is bound to attract hundreds of thousands of people to London, isn't it?
Yes, and this part of London here in Westminster, where the heart of government and Parliament is very well used to dealing with large events, whether demonstrations or protests or other big set-piece events, like the state opening of Parliament, when the Queen comes here to open up the parliamentary session every year. So the police and security services are very well used to dealing with large events here in this part of the capital. As we saw last week, though, with that demonstration that turned to violence by many thousands of students coming, they don't always turn out to end in the best possible way. But certainly I think security for a royal wedding would be an enormous operation that would be masterminded many months in advance. It would be taken extraordinarily seriously, and I think security would be very, very tight. But it would be a huge event here in Westminster if it were to take place at Westminster Abbey, which is only just 100 yards or so from the House of Parliament itself.
OK, Laura Koonsberg in Westminster, thank you very much indeed.
Well, Prince William met Kate Middleton at university. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell takes a look now at their 8-year relationship.
She's the middle-class girl from the home counties of England whose charm and commitment have finally won the hand of a prince. She's Catherine Elizabeth Middleton, a girl who's long dreamt of a special romantic destiny.
You're falling in love with me. You'll marry me.
This was Kate at the age of 13, in one of the more prophetic scenes to be acted out in a school play.
Soon you shall meet a handsome man, a rich gentleman. It is all I'd ever hoped for. Will you fall in love with me? Indeed you will. And marry me? And marry you.
Her childhood was a comfortable one. This is the Middleton family home in rural Berkshire. The woman answering the door is her younger sister, Pippa. Kate went to the local prep school, St Andrews in Pangbourne. She was undistinguished academically, unlike her younger sister, P. Middleton, whose scholarship is recorded on the school wall. Kate, by contrast, shone on the sports field. Then, after public school at Marlborough, where it said she kept a photograph of Prince William on her wall, she headed off in the young prince's footsteps. It's not generally known, but in 2001, Kate went off to Chile on precisely the same Raleigh International Adventure course that William had attended just a few months earlier. Even then, she seemed to have set her sights on something special.
She had a certain aura, she had a certain demeanour and a certain maturity that made her stand out slightly from the other adventurers. She was extremely attractive, she was extremely popular, and she was a great member of the expedition, but she was always very in control of herself and impeccably behaved, one has to say.
William by then had decided to go to university in St Andrews, a town on the remote coast of Fife in Scotland, best known of course for having one of the most famous golf courses in the world. Kate had also decided to go to St Andrews. She'd also picked exactly the same course as the Prince, History of Art. St Andrews is a small, closely knit community, an ideal place for William, who was desperate for privacy, and an ideal place for students to get to know one another.
We gave them 4 years of normal life, 4 years in which they could get to know one another, free of intrusion, glare, publicity. We gave them